we always would feel like we were being profiled while we were in the service. It's like the same way you might have felt working a regular job or driving a car on the main road, on highways, and seeing an officer on the side of the road. And once you drive by him and once he sees that you're, of color, he gets behind you and follows you or runs your tag or maybe even pull you over. It was like the same feeling we had in the service on base, in the platoon, mess hall, wherever you were. You just kind of always felt profiled. You always felt like you were being monitored and watched, stereotyped, and you were. It brought forth a lot of anxiety, and a lot of pressure. Pressure that you felt like you could never escape from, no matter whether you had a uniform on or not. So you were still a black man, no matter where you were, no matter what you were doing. It's like even if you had a high ranking, even if you had a superior ranking, so you were still viewed and treated like you were nothing. The respect wasn't there. The regard wasn't there, regardless of your ranking. It is very hard for a lot of men, especially men that's been deployed and seen combat and picked up different type of traumas and experiences. It's very hard to come back from that and live a normal life, have normal relationships. It's hard to be around people. It's hard to, certain noises and certain sounds set you off and can change your mood. You don't like being around a lot of people anymore. Crowds just don't do you no justice. And loud noises and spontaneous, abrupt movements don't do you no good. You don't like people standing behind you. You don't like people too close to you. You really don't even like sleeping with people anymore. In the same bed. It's very interesting. I've met a couple veterans, a couple of Vietnam veterans specifically, who told me, they weren't even able to live with their wives anymore. It's like them and their wives had to actually live separately at certain points because that's how bad their, PTSD has gotten. And so it's hard, man. It's hard trying to adjust and work a regular job, be around people, associate with people. The pressures can be overwhelming, and this is why so many veterans kill themselves, and so many veterans commit suicide. If I'm not mistaken, the statistic on that is a veteran dies every 20 minutes every day. It's something very, very unfortunate. On top of all the veterans that you see are homeless, And once we going through boot camp at Fort Benning, it was like almost like being in prison, being around nothing but other men, and then having drill sergeants who were like, you know, ex-Rangers and been to all kind of tour on so many tours and seen so much combat and taken so many lives. You know, it turns you into something. It kind of makes you crazy. At least that's what it, you know, seemed to me, being around, you know, certain drill sergeants and certain sergeants and going from Fort Benning, graduating there, and then going to Fort Leonard Wood for AIT. It's like you were able to see the difference in the soldiers that came from other bases. Soldiers that came from Fort Sill, Fort Jackson, Fort Leonard Wood. It's like they were nothing compared to the soldiers that were coming from Fort Benning. And that's not just me just saying that. It was in plain sight. It was obvious. You know, we were in much better shape. We were much more squared away. We were much more equipped. We had much more knowledge. And it seemed like we just had much more resilience and mind strength at the end of the day. And you were able to just tell, you know. All these other bases were co-ed at the time. Fort Benning was like the only all-male base. So that right there in itself tells you that there was a different type of standard and a different type of focus that was expected of us to handle things and get things done efficiently and effectively. I say all that to say, when you're being molded and trained to be a certain way, it's hard to come back to the regular civilian life and civilian world and adjust and be normal, quote unquote, again. If you ever see the movie Major Payne, go watch the beginning of that movie again. It's a funny movie, it's comical, but there's a lot of serious underlying things that they put in that movie that is very, very real and very, very true. That much support, you know, for these guys, for us. No one really cares what's happening and what's going on, you know, to people that are serving and people that are training and dying, fighting, being deployed. No one really knows because we have no worries here. We don't have anyone invading us. We don't have anyone trying to take us over. We don't have anyone trying to attack us. So we don't know what war is. We don't know what survival is. We see what we see on the news and what's happening in other countries. We couldn't imagine that being here. We couldn't imagine that happening here. And that's what we are actually being trained and molded to do, to protect those freedoms and to protect our loved ones and our families who live here and reside here. That is what is being sacrificed. So it's like, you know, people care when it is convenient to them to be protected and to feel safe and to be safe. But outside of that, these guys, we are being molded and trained to be killing machines. But after we're all chewed up and spit out and used up, you know, there's no support and no help for a lot of guys. Me, myself, I was fortunate to have a caring, loving, supporting family to come home to. So the adjustment wasn't as hard as it could have been for someone who didn't have that, on top of someone who didn't have any type of administration help and support and knowledge. Outside of financial and economic things, just having peace of mind, just being able to sleep at night is a victory. You know, thoughts. The thoughts. The lucid dreams. Vivid dreams. Nightmares. Back pain, neck pain, random headaches, random ringing in your ears. When people see you, they think something's wrong. They think something happened or something's wrong with you, or you're angry, and you know, people just have no idea what can be going on in a veteran's mind, a veteran's head, any given moment. You know, and I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen guys that are, you know, so bad off and so worse off with their trauma and their PTSD that it's like, you'll mess around and die. And like, they'll kill you, you know. If triggered the wrong way, they'll just do something crazy. They'll kill themselves. It's like, this is why so many of them kill themselves. It's like they feel like there's no way out and there's no help and no one cares really. A lot of these guys just, you know, really don't know any other, especially if something sends them over, coming home from war to a cheating wife, or coming home from war to, you know, a dying parent or a sick parent, or, you know, anything. It could be anything that can send these guys over the edge to really commit atrocities. But it's like you would never know the intensity and the devastation that comes from being trained to do what you do and then having to go use that and do that. These weapons that we operate and we use are capable of mass destruction, man. A 50 cal bullet is this big. It's freaking big, man. You couldn't imagine killing someone with a bullet that big. You couldn't imagine what it would do and what it's capable of doing to the human body, to human flesh. You just see what you see in movies and you see what you see in video games.